look, at least what you can say about January 6th is that it was orderly this year, but that doesn't mean lefties can't continue to melt down over the last one. The View co-host Sunny Hostin even stooped to comparing the US Capitol riots in 2021 to the Holocaust.
January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, you know, like World War II, things that happened, you know, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
To compare the January 6 riots to the Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews died, not to mention millions of other people, is frankly deplorable, as another famous Democrat might have put it. It trivialises an actual genocide, Louise. I mean, you lose an argument the moment that you invoke the Holocaust.
Either H word, either Holocaust or Hitler. If you're going to compare someone to Hitler or compare a situation to the Holocaust, these are events which you can only talk about in the context of those events as well. And it's also, you find it's a very ignorant person who uses that analogy too, very lazy too. So she really hasn't obviously thought through the issues rather. She's just sort of throw that out there to try and get a headline or to get a post on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. So appalling, yes. But also if there are Jewish people watching that show, I imagine they'll be turning off in droves as well.
Oh, look, if there's any watching the show like The View, I mean, it's just the amount of content that we get from that program. But Kel, we didn't see that kind of hyperbole from View co-hosts when they're talking about things like the Black Lives Matter riots.
No, the Black Lives Matter riots burnt Minneapolis. I mean, that's the kind of domestic rioting, which is what actually, it wasn't an insurrection on the 6th of January 4 years ago. It was a bunch of mad people charging through they couldn't do any real damage in the end in the Capitol, and they couldn't stop the certification of the election. So it was an absurd thing, and it really, if you analyse it, was like any other mad mob that gets out of control, like the Black Lives Matter people who burnt down Minneapolis, so the CBD in Minneapolis. So it was a stupid thing to do. Sunny Hostin, I've got to say, has got a track record. She was the host on The View who asked Kamala Harris, when you look back over your years with Joe Biden, what would you have done differently? And she thought she was giving her a gift. And Kamala Harris, being Kamala Harris, said, I can't think of a single thing.
Oh, goodness.
So
and yet she wanted people to believe that she would be a very different type of president.
That's right. So Sunny Hostin is obviously doing her best. And they spent the whole election campaign bagging Trump and trying to get Kamala Harris elected. They've lost. She's saying ridiculous things like this because they lost. Their candidate didn't get up. They're bitter about it.
They're so bitter, Louise. And I mean, I'm curious to see how they respond when Trump does what he has been saying for some time now, and on day one of his presidency ends up pardoning, if not all, then a lot of these rioters who are still in jail to this day.
That's right, yeah. I mean,
some of them have got 22-year sentences. That's outrageous sentences for that kind of event, surely.
Extraordinary. Well, I guess if you're committing a genocide and a Holocaust, maybe it isn't such a huge sentence.
Yes, but again, to conflate the two is obscene as well. But yeah, I think the sentences are disproportionate to the actual crime itself. I'm not defending what happened on the Capitol that day, but
yeah, sure, it was ugly.
It was ugly, and people did die as well. But I think it's been blown out of context to an extent. But you know, it doesn't stop the left from weaponising it every occasion. January 6th next year, I'm sure they'll bring it up as well.
Yeah, well, the View co-hosts were also saying that they think it should be commemorated every year, like September 11. That was another sort of comparison they made, while also being quick to say, oh, but we're not saying it is like September 11, but it should be commemorated every year like some kind of hallmark event in the US. Bizarre.